I am giggling because I was trying to sing, and I may put it in because I'm sure I will not get a copyright strike because it probably utterly sucked and they won't know what I was trying to sing. Anyway, so speaking of singing, today's topic is my favorite Christmas songs. Yeah, my favorite Christmas songs. And I didn't know how to do this one without getting a copyright strike because I do want to show, or I would like to share my favorite versions of these songs with you. So I have created a YouTube playlist, and you can find it on my channel. It says top 10 Vlogmas Christmas songs or something like that. But as Vlogmas has gone so far into day 4, I've got a monkey wrench in the works, and I added 5 extra songs as my honorable mentions. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to do a, I'm not David Letterman, but I'm going to do a top 10 countdown and just talk a little bit about the song and why I like it. Thought this would be fun, just to share, kind of a sharing thing. And the Beast has joined me. I've got my corgi shirt on, and the Beast has joined me. And as you can see, you can just see his behind. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Number 10 is Silent Night. And I chose the Brad Paisley version because I love Brad Paisley. And he is from West Virginia as well. He's from Glendale, West Virginia, which is not too far from Wheeling, which is not too far from here. Now, one thing you're going to notice, before I start talking about this, I should have mentioned this, that these songs are going to be heavily influenced with country because I grew up, my mom loved country music, and she liked old school country music, like Hank Williams, Ernest Tubb, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, you know, Dolly Parton, that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of influence of that in these because these songs kind of remind me of childhood and Christmas and wonderful things. But the Silent Night, I picked the Brad Paisley version because obviously he's from West Virginia and so am I, and I love him. He's adorable. If I had only gone to West Liberty College instead of where I went to college, maybe I would have met him. Anyway, I picked number 10 is Silent Night. I picked it because in 4th grade, we had to do a Christmas pageant play for school, and we did the story of Silent Night. And if you don't know it, it's a really interesting story. It was a priest in Austria in 1816 named Joseph Moore wrote it. He wrote a poem. And it was just, he was looking out at from the church and seeing the beautiful quiet night and just was reflecting upon the birth of Jesus and the time of the season. And this was also not too long after the Napoleonic Wars had ended. So, you know, he was reflecting on all of the turmoil that was going on in the world as well. And so he wrote that story. My line, I still remember it. I will be a virtuoso. That was my line, my one line. Anyway, 2 years later in 1818, it was performed at Christmas Eve Mass at the St. Nicholas Church in Oberndorf. I am not good at German. So, anyway, so Silent Night, and I have chosen the Brad Paisley version because it reminds me of my 4th grade Christmas pageant. All right, number 9. Christmas in Dixie by Alabama. Again, country music heavily influences my choices here. I don't know why I like this song. I really can't put a finger on it. I just really like it. It's different. It was written in it came out in 1982. So I remember when it came out. I was 9, and I've always liked this song. I don't know why. Again, okay, number 8 is Blue Christmas by Elvis Presley. This one is directly because of my mom. She loved Elvis. And I even used to give her a really hard time about why she named me Lisa, because obviously I always said it was because Elvis's daughter's named Lisa and she was a couple of years older than me. Thankfully, my middle name's not Marie. She flatly denied it. She always denied it, but I always like to give her grief about it. But originally written in 1948, it was when it was first written by Doyle Odell. That year, Ernest Tubb, who was also one of my mom's favorite performers, did a version of it. And I have heard it. It's not nearly as good as the Elvis version. Elvis recorded it in 1957 for his Elvis's Christmas album. And they put the more kind of jazz rock style to it. So that, that, it just, yeah. And it's not Christmas. If I don't, that's one of the songs I have to hear for it to be Christmas. Blue Christmas, Elvis Presley. Okay, number 7's a really, really strange one, okay? You're going to probably think I've lost my mind. And this has no country influences at all. It's Fairy Tale in New York by the Pogues featuring Christy McCall. I love the Pogues. I have not been a long-time fan of them. My friend, he turned me on to them a couple of years ago. And I just love the Pogues. They're Irish, kind of Celtic punk, you might want to call them. Celtic punk right there. Welsh punk. But they're really, they're a cool band, and the lead singer is kind of almost like the poet laureate of Ireland in a way. And but he is every stereotype of a drunk Irishman. Trust me, if you know anything about the Pogues. If you don't, look them up. They're a really cool band. But this particular song is actually about a drunk Irishman. So he's in the drunk tank in New York. He's an immigrant, and it's Christmas Eve, and so that's kind of what it was talking about. And there's controversy on when it was written. Some say 1985. But McGowan, the lead singer, says that he claims that it was a challenge by his then producer, Elvis Costello, that the band could not create a Christmas song and make it a hit. So he took that as a challenge, wrote it. Got the title from the J.P. Donlevy's novel from 1973, A Fairy Tale of New York. And that's where he got the title from. And right now, in the 21st century, it is considered in England one of the best Christmas songs ever written, and it's the most played Christmas song in the UK. It's an interesting song, and I highly recommend that you take a listen to it in my playlist. All right, let's go with number 6. It is the famous Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it must be by Gene Autry, the singing cowboy himself. Again, another influence. My mom loved Gene Autry. She watched all of his movies. She had all of his albums. She loved that man. And so I heard that version, and that version is the only version that I consider even to listen to. So, it is pure American capitalism at work. It first appeared in a booklet in 1939, written by Robert L. May, who worked for Montgomery Ward, which was a huge department store based in Chicago. So his brother-in-law was a songwriter named Johnny Marks, and he wrote the song based on the story that May wrote. The song then, when he wrote the song, added paraphrasing the introduction, "You know Dancer and Prancer and Vixen" from the Visit from St. Nicholas, or "'Twas a Nice Before Christmas." They got that from On Donner, on Blitzen thing. So actually Gene Autry didn't want to record the song. His wife talked him into it, and smart woman, it became hugely successful and popular beyond belief. And it hit number 1 for the Christmas of 1949. All right, so before I continue, since we're at the halfway mark, I'm going to channel my inner Casey Kasem. I'm not going to do a long distance dedication, but I'm going to do 5 honorable mention songs that I really wanted to do. They're in the playlists if you want to listen to them, but they're good. They're nice songs I like, but they weren't in my top 10. They're probably my top 15. So, being a child of the 80s, I love me some new wave. Okay, so Pet Shop Boys, It Doesn't Often Snow at Christmas. Check it out. And like, I don't have a whole lot of religious stuff in this one. I had Silent Night, of course, was one. But this one by Harry Belafonte is Mary's Boy Child. I just love it. I love his voice. And again, back to kind of my punk alternative type of style here. The Kinks' Father Christmas, which is totally yeah, it's not a nice song. It's not a warm fuzzies. It's not warm fuzzies for Christmas. It's about being poor at Christmas. And I love the Kinks. I have loved them since I heard Come Dancing in 1980, whatever, when I was a kid and watching HBO Video Jukebox, and I saw Come Dancing, and I have loved the Kinks ever since. Okay, another one of my punk friends, the Ramones, Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight. Another offbeat Christmas song that you really got to give a listen to. And then I went through a phase, I loved the Eagles, I still do. Please Come Home for Christmas. And again, if I don't hear that one, that's almost as much as Blue Christmas if I don't hear that one. But I couldn't find the Eagles version. I can only find the Don Henley version. So, same difference, I suppose. All right, back to my real countdown. Okay, number 5 is Hard Candy Christmas by Dolly Parton. I just like this one because this is also another one of those melancholy kind of songs about the struggles of getting through Christmas. And actually, she even said it really wasn't a Christmas song so much. But because you're not going to believe this, but this song was created to be on the soundtrack for The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. It was released in October 1982 and it reached number 8 the following January. So, yeah, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. So I guess obviously, probably why it's not considered a Christmas song. But a Hard Candy Christmas, actually, it refers to back in probably the Depression when families didn't have a whole lot of money, and that's really all they could afford to give their kids was cheap, the penny candies, bulk confectionery. So that's where it comes from. Yeah, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. All right, number 4. Now this is definitely one that if I haven't heard it, it's not Christmas. I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, and it must be by Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. It must be his version. I just love his rich baritone, and it has to be Johnny Cash. Otherwise, it's not the right song. And then June Carter has like the ephemeral kind of sounds in it too. It's just, yeah, anyway. This is kind of a deep, kind of some of the songs that I've picked are kind of dark for Christmas. Okay, but this one is based on an 1863 poem called Christmas Bells by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He first published it in February of 1855 in Our Young Folks, which was a juvenile magazine at the time. A few years earlier in 1861, Longfellow's second wife, of 18 years died. She was burned in an accidental fire. And then the following year in 1863, or 2 years later, in 1863, during the Civil War, the American Civil War, his son enlisted in the army. And he was, Longfellow was against it. He didn't want him to join. So he went ahead and he left and took on out. And he actually was wounded in the Battle of Mine Run. He eventually did recover, but so it's you can feel in the and especially in the Johnny Cash version, you can really feel the lament that he's singing, but has the hope, because there's a line in it that says, God is not dead. And if you're religious in any way, that's a very powerful line. And so it's just, to me, it's a powerful song. And then, so Bing Crosby did a version in 1956. And then Ray Bradbury, another one of my absolute favorite authors, in his novel Something Wicked This Way Comes, describes it as an immensely moving, overwhelming, no matter what day or what month it is sung. And I honestly feel that way about the Johnny Cash version. And it was in the 1963 A Christmas Spirit album for Johnny Cash, and it's just, I love that song. All right, number three is Pretty Paper, and I chose the Chris Isaak version because I love me some Chris Isaak. Yeah, I like him a lot. I like the rockabilly. I am definitely a rockabilly person. Although this song was written by Willie Nelson back when he was kind of more doing songwriting than performing, because there was a time in his career when he was more of a songwriter, because he wrote Crazy, he wrote a couple other songs that other people made famous. So he was living in Tennessee at the time, and it was 1963, and he was thinking about a man that he remembered while he lived in Fort Worth, Texas. And the guy had a little roller cart, kind of reminded me of Trading Places, but he had a little roller cart, and he sold paper and pencils in front of a department store there in Fort Worth. In 2013, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram found the guy and identified him as Frankie Beerton of Santo, Texas. And unfortunately, he lost his legs, were kind of atrophied below the knee due to meningitis when he was a kid. So at the time, Nelson's producer heard him sing the song, loved it, thought it was very moving, and he sent it to Roy Orbison to record. Roy Orbison recorded the version in November of 1963, and it peaked at number 10 on the U.S. chart. The following year, Willie changed record labels, and he recorded his own version of it. And it's been covered by a whole lot of people. And I can tell you, there are so many versions of this song, because every time my mom saw it on a Christmas album or a compilation, if that song was on there, she bought it because she loved that song. I never really understood it until I was much older about what the guy was, he was, she told me he was blind, but obviously the guy was not blind. He was, didn't have use of his legs, but yeah, it's a moving song. There's many versions, but like I said, I like Chris Isaak's version, and I bought that album, his Christmas album, several years ago, and I was happy to see that was actually on there, because then I showed it to my mom and turned her on to Chris Isaak, the modern rockabilly guy. All right, number two, getting up there. Number two is Snoopy's Christmas by the Royal Guardsmen. This song actually makes me cry. I don't know why. Sometimes it will make me cry, because it's I don't know. It's referring to the 1914 Christmas truce during World War I, when the German and the British soldiers decided to kind of themselves just decided to stop fighting during Christmas. So if you just think about that, that is moving in and of itself, even though it's a cartoon. I have always loved Snoopy and the Red Baron. From when I was tiny, like 3, 4 years old, I wanted to be the World War I flying ace. So there you go. Tidbit about me. So I love Snoopy, and especially the flying ace. So I've always enjoyed this song. It reached #1 in New Zealand and Australia in 1967, but it never charted in America. Eventually it's become a popular, because when I was a kid, like I said, when I was a kid, and that would have been like the late 70s, it was, they were selling Snoopy's Christmas. I have the album. I remember having it and playing it, and I loved it. So maybe it took them maybe about 10 years to get popular or something. I don't know. But yeah, it never charted here. Okay. So number one. Number 1 is an odd duck. I'm not sure, you might not even know what the song is. It's called Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey. It's also, various artists have performed this. I think Johnny Cash did a version of it. The version I'm most familiar with is Marty Robbins. But several people have done it. It was written by Gene Autry, Don Fremer, and Dave Burgess in 1975. And Rankin Bass if you're a child of the 70s and 80s, Rankin Bass TV specials, holiday specials were the best ever. Stop motion. Made a stop motion special in 1977. And in that version, Roger Miller sings it. I've also heard Hank Snow, which is an old time not Christian, country artist. So he's done a version of it. But yeah, like I said, Marty Robbins is the version that I picked because that's the one I'm familiar with. So I hope you've enjoyed my countdown of my favorite Christmas songs and enjoyed learning a little bit about each one of them. And be sure to check out my playlist. I'll put it up right here. And you can see the song, or hear the songs that I picked out. And I hope you continue watching Vlogmas 2022, and stay tuned for the next installment. Thanks for watching. When those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue heartaches start calling. Okay, now that I have thoroughly offended the ghost of Elvis, I expect to be visited by him tonight. All right. Welcome back to